All right, looks like we have a good number of participants. I can go ahead and get us kicked off.
Yep.
Welcome, everybody. Excellent. My name is Dr. Beverly Wright. I'm representing TAG Data Science and AI Society. I'm also Vice President of Data Science and AI at a company called Wavical Data Solutions, which that's the first time I've ever said that. So you guys are hearing it first. So we're super excited to cover 2024 data science and AI predictions with you with our incredible panel of participants. So first, I'll cover, you want to go ahead and advance? Thank you, thank you. I'll let the sponsor of the event say a few words about the company, which happens to be the company where I am now. So Katie Nelson from Wavical, if you want to give us a hello, we would appreciate it.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having us. I'm really excited to be continuing to support TAG and the data and AI community here. Wavical is, just to get you oriented, Wavical's a data and analytics consultancy. So we're based out of Chicago, but have representation in about 25 states, about 500 consultants, and represent every industry. So we're privately owned, so we have a lot of flexibility in terms of how we engage and partner with our clients and prospects. So we do everything from data management and now to with the addition of Beverly, look forward to kind of sharpening our tools in the AI and data science space. So happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Can we go to the next slide, please? Thank you. A couple of words about TAG as an organization and then our society, and then I'm going to introduce our speakers and we'll cover our predictions. So the TAG Data Science and AI Society is thankful for our annual sponsors. We have sponsors for specific events, and then we have sponsors across the year. And so we're very fortunate to have partnerships with these companies listed here. So as mentioned, I'll give you a quick rundown of Technology Association of Georgia and the TAG Data Science and AI Society. We'll talk about our predictions, our panelists, and if we have time, hopefully we can cover some Q&A. And then I'm going to give you a quick preview of some of the next events that we have coming up. Before we get into too much around Technology Association of Georgia, I did have one more introduction I wanted to make. If we can pause the slides just for a second. We have Eric Schmidt on with us today, and he is a promotion sponsor from Informs Atlanta chapter. So Eric, you want to say a few words for us, please, sir?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for a few minutes here. So Informs is one of the largest professional organizations around data science and analytics in the US. And we have several societies and chapters, some focused on various topics like analytics, for example, or optimization, or local chapters. And Atlanta actually has, I would say, one of the largest and maybe most active, at least historically, chapters in Informs. And it's a great opportunity to connect with other professionals in the greater Atlanta area, to understand a little bit better what our peers are seeing in their work, in their careers, what are best practices that they're leveraging in their roles, and just stay on top of what's going on in data science and analytics in that space. And so we have a new set of officers in the chapter We've got a great legacy of great contributions from various people in the Atlanta area as officers in the Atlanta chapter, and we are a new set of officers. And Priya, who will be speaking today, is one of our officers in the chapter, and we're putting on various events for anyone really in the analytics, data science and analytics space in Atlanta, but also for our chapter members. So we will be announcing some of those events shortly. And if anyone has any questions or would like to learn more about Informs or the Atlanta chapter, please feel free to reach out to myself or Priya, and happy to have a conversation with you. So I think that's what we have to say. Beverly, is there anything you want to add, or is there anything else I can contribute here?
Do you think you could put your LinkedIn profile in the chat? Your name's actually pretty common.
Yeah, I think I'm actually one of the older LinkedIn accounts, because I actually have a pretty streamlined name. So yeah, I'll drop my LinkedIn in the chat here before I step away, and would love to connect with everyone. So please reach out.
Great, thank you. Some of my greatest and best conversations that I have with colleagues are from Informs. So they're sort of like the global version of TAG, and a wonderful organization. So thanks for partnering with us.
Thank you.
Awesome. So we're going to talk about how great TAG is now, and then we'll jump right into it. TAG is Technology Association of Georgia. And if you want to go to the next, there are a number of things that that TAG does. We are focused on connecting, promoting, influencing, and educating Georgia's technology ecosystem. There are over 30,000 members, 1,200 companies plus are involved. We have over 20 societies, which sort of serve as special interest groups, and we have over 150 events hosted annually. Now, the different societies, obviously the coolest one is TAG Data Science and AI Society. Our vision at TAG Data Science and AI is advance the creation and evolution of data-inspired approaches to problem solving. We want to connect and inspire analytical minds in ways that foster this innovative use of data. So some of the things that we do through TAG Data Science and AI include, we have a learning series. It's a 3-part, usually 2 hours each. It's kind of a data science for non-data scientists. So if you're just getting into this, it's a great for those purposes. We also have a For Good initiative where we leverage data science and AI for nonprofit benefits and causes, including Master Modeler competition, a purpose project that we do in the summer, and we have an event called Data Science Superpowers for Good. We also have various events throughout the year, and we have our very own podcast called TAG Data Talk. The link is in the chat. All right, I'll ask each of our panelists to do a quick introduction. I'll start just because I'm on the far left. I'm Beverly Wright, Head of Data Science and AI at Wavable Data Solutions. I've been in analytics and data science for over 30 years. I've been on the academic side for a couple of decades. I've been a consultant for about 13 years now, and I've been on the practitioner side, either as a team lead or an individual contributor at companies like Cox Communications, SunTrust, Truist, and Southern Company, Georgia Power. Deepa, can you give us a quick intro, please, ma'am?
Sure. Hi, hope you guys can hear me. My name is Deepa Muralidhar. I'm academician, a professor here at Georgia State University. I teach computer science. I am also in my final phase of my PhD. I do research on artificial intelligence, specifically on the impact of artificial intelligence applications such as Gen AI in society. So looking forward to a really good conversation. Thanks for being here.
Awesome. Larry?
Good afternoon. My name is Larry Williams. I'm the president and CEO of TAG. Beverly, thanks for the wonderful introduction of TAG. Greatly appreciate all your support as well as that of Deepa and Priya. I've been in economic development for about 30 years, and I've done it around the world, but based out of places like North Carolina, state of Washington, out of Seattle, Miami, and here in Atlanta as well. I think a lot of economic development is about how do you recruit companies to come to your jurisdiction, but it's really about job growth and how do you grow an economy. And to me, what's always been fascinating about economic development is really about how innovation really drives job growth. You know, creating new companies, new products, new services, that to me is what really drives job growth and really helps increase and or amplify or build an economy. And I think what we have going on in Georgia is unique. I don't think what we have going on here today is not replicated anywhere else in the country and a few places in the world. So I'm super excited to be here and working with TAG to help drive innovation in Georgia.
Love it, love it. Priya.
Hi, I'm Priya Sarthi. I've been more or less in the corporate world. I did dabble in academics for a year in Georgia State and other places. But I'm an economist, a quantitative person who's worked with marketing in any part of analytics, as you can name it. Most of the companies I worked with were in the Fortune 100, the IBMs, the AT&Ts of the world, then of course locally, Truist and Equifax as well. And I believe that behind every analytical solution, whether it was in analytics as we called it 20 years ago, or how we call it as data science and AI, they need to have a good data strategy. And so, you know, I'm really thinking that this time around, people will get their act together and look more into the data of the world. That's it.
Excellent. Love it. And what's really cool about this group is Priya has spent a tremendous amount of time in corporate at very high level positions and knows how to navigate that system as well as anybody I know. Larry is a technologist that's focused on economic development, so he hears from company leaders on a regular basis, and AI is on the tip of everybody's tongue right now. And Deepa is heavily involved in the academic world and literally the most updated studying of AI. So she's got the most recent knowledge and looks at it from an academic lens. So I thought that this group would serve as good complementary, and I'm a consultant, you know, good complementary view of what we can expect in the future. None of us have a crystal ball, so we may not be perfect, but here we go with some of the things that we think are gonna happen. So number one, not in any particular order, I think that communities are going to bond over special kinds of issues related to AI and start to form consortiums. So as an example, I used to work for Cox Communications, and the competition is fierce. But when it comes to regulation, they sort of put their weapons down for a minute and all kind of talk together. I think AI is going to have a similar impact on different kinds of companies, and they're going to put their differences aside to have these kind of conversations and problem solve together. Thoughts, Larry, Deepa, Priya?
I think there's going to be a limitation on what they would like to share, because I see there's a lot, there's not enough trust in this application using large data models, because that requires more exposure to more data. And I think a consortium on one hand can provide that by sharing the data, but again, it has to be kind of contained. And I think those discussions to me are more interesting.
Yeah.
I agree. The one interesting thing that I have seen happen over the last couple of years as this Gen AI has taken over, AI for the LGBT community, AI for the African American race, AI for very specific groups that perhaps are advantaged or disadvantaged. So,
I think.
So I think so communities are getting created, whether they will turn into consortiums, whether there's a value in consortiums. But at least there's going to be an attempt for that, I think.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
And
it'd
I
be
agree
interesting to see if
wholeheartedly
they
with
can pull
that.
it off.
Mhm.
I agree. I think I think these are opportunities for people to really find themselves and find the support networks that can help promote their causes. A word of caution is hopefully it won't entrench people into only that perspective. And actually, I think there could
Yeah.
be some things that within AI that can enable us to have broader ability to engage different perspectives. You know, most issues, special issues are multidimensional. So how do we make sure that we're covering all of those dimensions?
And I
Yeah,
think,
and
Beverly,
that-
one last point I want to add is
Mm-hmm.
I think these communities, that's a social good aspect of it, they have the most to gain because they have the least number of resources, money or funding wise, to take up a whole data science team and hire them to do their work. So I think the value,
Mhm.
the incremental lift they can get with much of these new AI models is going to be much more, and I think they will take it up. So yes, communities will fall
Right.
for leveraging the good.
Love it, love it. The second prediction that we have is from Deepa.
Okay. Thank you, Beverly. And thanks for a really good discussion on the first one. So if you look around right now, almost everything has a tiny little icon, right? It says AI. It's as if it's a magic little thing. And so if you write a little email, you'll use this AI bot to help you improve it. Ask AI to help you. Ask AI to improve your art. I was coining an email to somebody on LinkedIn yesterday and ask AI to improve your email. So I definitely see that in the areas of personal generation of content, there are going to be lots of tiny little bots that come up, AI bots that would help improve it. What this is going to lead to in the word large language models has become a very common word now. It's a buzzword. It's nothing but an engine that drives an AI system. My expectation is that there will be very specialized language models for each domain in which it gets used. So that, like a bunch of people sit together, they gather the data, they build a model that's very specific to that domain. So very customized, right? The other piece that I think also is going to come as an outset of this is a lot of fake content. Deepfakes is already there, voice, right? My husband was telling me that this morning, when he calls a play like a bank, the bank says, we've captured your number. Can we call you back at this number to make sure that it is an original voice? So content verification of this data that gets created from any of these applications are going to be very crucial to things that we will see, I anticipate we'll see develop in the upcoming year. Thoughts, guys?
Interesting.
I'll just.
I put it. Go ahead,
Go
Priya.
ahead. No, go ahead.
Oh, I was saying, I put something in the chat about, do we want to know, like, if you're buying a web design solution, or if you're buying some art, or, if you're buying something that's a written content, do we need to know? Do we want to know? Like, hey, did you leverage an open source? Like, nothing is bad or it's not allowed or anything like that, but do we need to know? Do we want to know? Should we start watermarking? Like, is there, I don't know. It makes you wonder. There's no easy answer to that, but it does sort of make me want to know, like, did you email me this raw, or did you?
Right.
It makes you question it.
And it's almost as if everybody is going to look at it with a lens of suspicion, right? These days,
Right.
like selection committees for colleges, no longer, you used to use essays to really evaluate if the student understood what they were saying and what caliber they were. It's gone. We really don't know any longer if they wrote it or if it was AI generated.
The same with art, right? The same with art. It's like you thought a person was creative for the way they thought, the way they expressed themselves in a different form. But if it's going to be digital art that it's anything. I mean, it was anything before. Digital art was always a free for all, but now you talk about prints and like it could be anybody's prints, modify it. So yes, I think that the deep fakes versus what is actually, how do you evaluate a person is going to change as a consequence of this, because what is creativity, or how do you value creativity, or is that no longer an issue?
Right.
Good question. Let's see, who's got the next one?
Yeah, I think.
Well, it's me, and this really dovetails perfectly into this
Oh,
conversation.
yeah.
Because the way I was thinking
you
about
do.
this is, I think there are things that are low value IP, and then there's all the way up to higher value IP. So if we think about it, if somebody's just got an idea and they're trying to communicate it at a homeowners association or something that isn't, or even an entrepreneur starting up a new company and trying to just communicate their ideas and their concept, and being able to pull in using AI. There are a lot of tools out there. Copilot is, leading the way, but able to build things up very quickly. And again, it's not a lot of, it's a lower value on the IP scale than a lot of other things. I think there's some middle ground of some things that are just going to be fun and creative. Think about, over at the music lab at Georgia Tech, they figured out a way to get a third arm, a robotic arm on a drummer. And so that's fun. It's
Wow.
creative, Yeah, so it's creating some unique sounds driven by humans, but the ability of it to pull in AI and actually create some new things. It is fun and it's creative. And then we get into higher level IP. What is truly unique content? What is somebody's what is their own work for music? Something they created, the lyrics, pulling all together, the instruments and everything that pulled together, a very nice, a new song or a new symphony. Scripts for our film industry and for plays, visual arts, as y'all were mentioning. These things are of higher value. And I think those are the things that are going to exasperate the legal and the moral challenges and the IP rights. That's where the focus of battles are going to be. But the others are going to be a little bit lower. I mean, but does it get to the point that ChatGPT is going to sue a human for stealing their intellectual property?
Right. Well, it does make you wonder, because you might say, well, I deserve the intellectual property because I asked the question in a certain way and happened to get, this answer. But it's like, well, anybody else could have asked that question and maybe gotten the exact same thing. And so who does own the rights? I thought it was funny too that Carson Topping, who actually serves on our board, thank you for being here, Carson, put an article in the chat. So y'all take a look at that, but it's about artists fighting against generative AI, which should be an interesting thing to watch. Like, is there going to be a battle, or are they going to somehow find a way to embrace it? Are they going to constantly, are they just going to have to back out of the arena because they're like, well, I'm no longer needed? It makes you wonder how they will adapt or not. Interesting conversations. I really, really love this one. Next one comes from Priya. And we've had Dr. Paul Root-Wolpe from Emory Center for Ethics talk about this notion. He was our speaker for Ethical AI late last year. But Priya, take it away.
Yeah, this is something that's really interesting, because I am thinking from a corporate world, and I think this can expand further, but think about all this effort a company puts in and says, oh, we have self-serving reports that you can use. Oh, by the way, we have this new tool that will tell you which model to build, what data kind of features to create. And over time, we have used libraries that build models for us, and all we are doing is learning how to interpret them, right? Now, suppose you start adding more of these applications that take you to another level of intelligence. They're able to tell you how to interpret your models and everything. So this can go on in many different ways. In a way, it's good, but think about the person who's aimlessly, hitting the keyboard. What comes to my mind is Lucille Ball when she's doing the assembly line. She starts eating the chocolates instead of kind of packaging them. It's a very tedious, boring kind of a job to do, and you kind of zone out. And I'm afraid that what this new technology is, it's helping us. It's an assistant. We can use it. But if we start taking it for granted, we become like what we did in front of TV. We become the mental couch potatoes. That's what I'm thinking, is you tend to use your mind less. You tend to depend more and more on these tools. Then the question becomes, you first walk yourself out of the job. You're not doing much. The value you bring is the intellect, the curiosity to ask, is this really right? Is this really relevant? So I see that tendency to have more of the mental couch behavior. It might cause a critical error. And in a company, that means money, that means getting fired or getting new regulations on how to behave with the new technology. I think they're going to see growing number of guardrails being put so that we don't err on the possibility of not looking in and not having oversight into your job responsibility. So that's where I think I'm looking at this as being a trend, but there could be a counter trend too with it, where we become highly productive using AI assistants to do our job in this heavenly manner that everybody's left saying, wow, you really did this. Going back to the creativity, nobody really cares. The answer is delivering to the business.
Well,
It's
it makes you
interesting.
wonder too if there's going to be some more mental illness, as well. Like as we change the way our cognitive, like what are we doing with our brain every day, and as that changes and we feel like we're competing with something we can't even come close to competing with, it makes you wonder. What were you saying, Larry? I'm sorry.
It's an interesting, even in our own lifetimes, I remember the debate about whether or not you could have a calculator in math class or in chemistry.
Yeah.
And that certainly evolved, and it's now just come. You wouldn't think about showing up without a calculator because it's a way to accelerate certain work processes to get to a higher level, part of the content that's going on. So it's, I think some people, are going to take the easy route, and then some people are going to really take that tool. I think about professors who used to get a bunch of interns and send them out. Let's see, I'll throw out a word, see who remembers this word. Send them out to the stacks to do lots of research and pull together lots of, information over different books, put them on little index cards and, cite them and get them back. That's going to be done in, minutes instead of days and months.
But on the other hand, Larry, think about the case of the lawyer who wrote his statement without looking at GPT, I think, created its own case. And because they're so used to saying, oh, that somebody's doing my research for me, I don't have to oversee what it's done or even just reading, giving it a simple read and say, I've never heard about this. That is the mistakes, that is the errors that might hit them to get them out of the couch and say, oh no, this is something, the stakes are much higher when you make some mistakes like that. And, I don't know. So that's what I think is you're going to offset and balance.
Yeah, I hope so. Because you got to have that human element. You got to have that governance over it.
Deepa, did you start to say something?
Yeah. No, I was just chiming into what Priya was saying. As we see more and more of that, what's going to really happen is more conversation, more communities being bonding over special issues. It's almost going to be cyclical, right? Because as people start saying, just generating stuff, we know that the generative AI has its issues in terms of biases. And if we mimic this mental couch potato behaviors, then people are going to start forming, or the one that Larry was saying, right, where the organizations such as ART start fighting for their rights because, we heard about everybody's heard about the Writers Guild's very, very long strike that they had in the Los Angeles area. So communities are going to have to be formed. and to defend themselves, or at least, fight against AI.
Yeah. Well, and I wonder how that's gonna go. It's like definitely David and Goliath. And I put a little scenario in the chat just to be a little doomsday-ish. But I feel like we started with sort of small hacks, like, oh, here's how you can do this faster. And it's sort of, someone used the term crutch, and maybe now it's more like a wheelchair, an electric wheelchair, and then just forget it. I got it. Just, you don't have to. So I'm not sure how we're going to stop or slow that down. But that also brings us to the notion of, like, the increase and the increase and the increase. Well, what about the good guys versus the bad guys? Larry?
Yeah, if any of you remember Mad Magazine and Spy versus Spy, that's what I thought of all the time, the white hat and the black hat. And it is going to be that, nuclear proliferation of just one outgoing. So I think you're going to see, from everything, anything from ransomware, phishing, spoofing, that is all going to accelerate exponentially, and it's going to be fast. And then with all of those, the bad guys are going to be utilizing these tools. So the good guys are going to have to utilize things as well. Remember, when it comes to cybersecurity, the bad guys only have to be right once. We have to be right. The good guys have to be right every time. And so what we have to do, so if I think about a positive business case, a use case for artificial intelligence, it gives us the ability to talk across several different stacks of cybersecurity applications that have been deployed in a much faster way, and make sure that they're all talking and communicating with each other, all with the idea of fighting against and preventing any type of intrusion to the point that we can. I mean, most of the bad guys are already in. It's a matter of guarding the data that we don't want them to see. So I think that's part of it. The other part is really, if we think about, it'll be really, highly accelerate misinformation and disinformation. We can think about that as we go into an election year, but there's a lot of other things whose, a lot of nation states, their objective isn't so much the ransomware. They might do it, and they funded terrorism throughout in certain parts of the world, and they've done it with this type of tactics, but also just disrupting systems will continue to be an objective of itself. And I think even increasing that, just anything they can do to destabilize, have companies, governments divert resources instead of doing things that are productive, but their ability to counter any of the mis and disinformation is going to be much more prevalent.
It's a little bit reminds me of weapons. Are we in some way drawing a parallel to that?
Well, it is the nuclear proliferation of the information age.
Yeah. I think what I'm saying, Larry, is for everything that AI can improve and do much better, you always have the back door where AI could be used to do the negative, right? The infiltration, the security hacks, things like that. So I think it's there, the same thing. You have, even if you go back to the first point of arts and creativity, you can have creativity that's happening, that's helping and promoting and, extending your portfolio, but at the same time, somebody is mimicking. I think one of the chat points was somebody is faking the voice of Taylor Swift and creating the spoofing of their work and their creativity by creating other pieces. So there's always a negative, I think, and a positive to everything. And, Larry, how does one get out of that, right? It's a tough one.
It is. And I don't know how we figure out who's better, faster, quicker, more innovative, more effective. Like, how do we do this? It's kind of like the, sort of the cops and the bad guys, or good guy. It's any good guy, bad guy story is like, how do we don't have a way to really truly ensure that it's going to go the way we want it to. So we're just being real with y'all here. So this is this TAG Data Science and AI real talk about AI. So
Well,
very
it's a
good
good
point,
point,
Larry. I love
Beverly.
this one.
Beverly, it's a great point. We really don't know. I mean, we're at the beginning of this thing. And it's a way, it's
Yeah.
like dropping a nuclear bomb and waiting to see what happens because we just don't know.
Mhm. That's right. And I mean, that's part of why TAG does what it does, to educate, inform, and stimulate and encourage, because we're trying to, you know, help the good guys like grow and expand in their knowledge base, so that we can do better. And this kind of ties a little bit into the regulatory environment. And so Deepa, I think you had some good thoughts on that one, if we want to go to the next.
Sure. So there has been significant work done in the last 2 years, with every year becoming a little more clearer as to how to regulate AI. The conversations in the recent conferences, as I read through their transcripts or listen to their keynotes, it's getting a little better, a little clearer. So last year, there was literally nothing, right? When the NIST tried to work with the White House to create some sort of regulation, but they hired a few scientists to try and come up with a policy. The EU has come up with a policy, which finally, you know, there was a lot of drama around it. And finally, in 2023, around June-ish, the EU came out with their policies. And now there is a lot of conversation on how to regulate what are the policies that should be applied? What are the guardrails? The areas that I think that we try to have to regulate, they may or may not succeed. I think there'll definitely be rules that come out, laws that will be put in place, and of course, immediately the tech firms are going to protest against the generality or find ways to go around it. A thing that I don't know that it'll reach, and I really am looking at the group to kind of push this around and toss the idea around, being very honest here, is the idea of this data, using the data labeling, and not just labeling the data as much as the pay that is given to these people, the data workers, right, in the third world countries. They're highly underpaid. And then the domain knowledge that they have, so the accuracy of the data, and given that the technology, the algorithm is 110% dependent on this data, the accuracy and the cleanliness of the data is so important. So policies around that. And finally, healthcare, the biggest issue that's really bothering everybody is the privacy. We're all there, right? We don't want everybody talking about our issue, even if they don't want we don't want them to use our data to figure out if an AI bot can actually work correctly. So, and then synthetic data is really not helping. So regulation issues on that, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I remember when I was at SunTrust, which became Truist. I always thought SunTrust was such a great name, and then they changed it to Truist, which is fine. But I really like SunTrust. Anyway, they had a group called MRMG, which a lot of financial institutions have one. It's Model Risk Management Group. And all the models that are developed go through this group. They assess them, they make sure they're transparent enough, that they're not black boxy, that they can withstand the rigor to be what it needs to be, but not so much, complication that you can't explain it to someone else. And so this idea of regulating AI may mean the increase in those kinds of things internally too. Like, that regulation is there. There's probably going to be different groups that come into play, similar to MRMG, except instead of just for models, it's for AI. Any other thoughts on that, Larry or Priya, about the regulation?
I would think so, because just like you saw MRM, where they were reviewing the model performance, when you talk about AIs, it's going to kind of go across the board. It's not about data quality as in source data. I think that will be the perception that will change with the new regulations that come. It's going to be every stage of the data, to the decisions you're making, to the features you're developing, and the decisions you're making. So I think that construct, as I was developing the product for Equifax on identity and fraud, one of those things nobody really paid attention to is, we have the raw data, we've taken care of that. but who's going to take care of how the data flows through the various users in the end? How is it affecting the decision? You can't wait for somebody to say, oops, there was something wrong. So AI is going to, because it's constant, it's dynamic nature of AI, you need to be tracking how the decisions as an outcome of the AI are also happening. How are they impacting? So I think the rules, like how they were in MRMG processes, is going to go much wider and much deeper
Yes.
across the board. It's not going to be just, oh, I'm building a model or I'm building an AI application.
Right.
It's
Yeah, it might be
definitely a-
hard to even categorize and catch them.
by all means, and I agree with
Cameron?
you, Priya, but also, you know, I always get a little bit concerned whenever we talk about regulating certain things. I spend a lot of time on the Hill, and I can tell you that the depth of knowledge that our policymakers have on subjects like this and cybersecurity is very, very thin. So a lot of the
Mhm.
reaction tends to be out of fear. And it can even lead to how do we protect jobs, even though they might have a short lifespan ahead of them? How, you know, what do we do just to react to things that we're hearing? You know, the constant thing
Yeah.
about GPT and people, you know, people saying that, you know, everybody's going to cheat on their, you know, their junior high exam, to already, you know, college professors are saying it's already here, it's already there, it's a tool. We're going to be utilizing it. But we got to be able to keep up with it. And I think it's going to take, if you know about consortiums, it's going to take a consortium of some smart people to really educate and help guide where our AI and what policies, what needs to be regulated, what doesn't need to be regulated, and really inform our government. Because I think there are people already, as these things are being deployed, we're already seeing things happen like data poisoning for people that don't want these tools in place, that are worried about their own personal jobs. Actually, internal sabotage to the system. These things are already happening. And, you know, people that are just resisting, saying, you want me to just build this so you can put me out of work. Well, you know, no, but we want you to be able to upskill and be able to take advantage of new opportunities that are coming.
Right. Yep. Yep. Makes sense.
That makes a lot of
Excellent.
sense, Larry. Yeah, yeah. So new opportunities, right? I mean, that definitely is a key word. And that, if you look in the chat, you see that a lot. Both Beverly says how much she's getting calls. There's another lawyer, who says that there are existing laws that need to be applied. And that's something I'd really want to emphasize. Even as a software engineer, I can tell you, much of these solutions that are there, that are posed as problems in AI right now, we have age-old solutions for standard software engineering practices, which quite honestly have not been applied to the development of AI. And Priya's point brings that out very clearly when she talks about the data pipeline at every process, how people haven't thought it through. That's exactly the development cycle. So, we are seeing that this new thing has come out and it's on everybody's mouth. It's easily AI is the most spoken topic, but none of us, as experts, we kind of are seeing that in our own domains, no one's taking 10 steps back and just taking a deep breath and trying to
we don't have time for that. We're just running. Well, and I think we are seeing, to Priya's next point, I think we're on number 7 out of 13. And so we're looking good here. But Priya had a comment about maybe some different diversity in the entrepreneurs, if we want to pull that next point up.
Yeah, so I was recently talking to this lady. She has a new startup, and she's like, "Oh, I want to use AI." I'm like, "Okay, for what?" Says, "Well, I want to do matching between the folks that are in undergraduates and folks that have small businesses that may need help and support. They can offer them internship. You no longer have to depend upon the big companies." Students cycling through that. And I said, that's wonderful. I mean, that's an application of AI because now you have something that you can take. It's a low code or a no code. You need a few people to kind of build it up and use it. You can use what's available in the public domain. To me, that is a whole new venture. And she wouldn't have thought about it before because it would have been a lot of development, infrastructure, this and that. Now, you have platforms that offer it as a service that you can leverage and modify and build your products on. So to me, she represented to me a step away. She was not the typical person, I would say, assuming to build a AI based product. In the same way, AI still is developing. And I think what people are finding is, yes, we do have DevOps, right? We have processes that monitor that, but nobody really uses in the corporate world. Very few companies go through the rigor of monitoring end to end. But there are many companies saying, okay, if you have not been able to develop, let's develop a quick solution that you could put as a plugin. So that is creating people of who are creative mindsets, who can think about the problem solving. And now they have a way of creating those products and tools without being scoped as a technical person. You no longer have to be technical. You can build more types of new products based on the ideas you have. So it's like creativity that's overcoming the technology barrier of new product creation. I wanted to point out that
Love it.
LLM and the natural language models that we have developed, well, they have to be done well. They have to do a good job across the world. So there is this organization in India that's actually interviewing locals in villages, asking them to speak into and capturing their recording, and using that to develop a better NLP model, not LLM, I'm just getting confused, NLP models that are more refined and much more able to serve the areas in regional India. And I think that, to me, it just shows there's a very diverse ways in which entrepreneurs can grow with this new technology, I think.
Interesting. I like your prediction in that one of the things that it was sort of inherent within it, kind of an undercurrent, doesn't say it directly, but it also makes you consider that almost everybody is going to be a user, but very few will be developers. You know, so like Deepa is one of the only true developers, future developers she's training other developers, but the use, you know, I think is going to be wider and wider. And so this notion of, you know, just about the low code, no code makes it barrier for entry easier. So this could be a really good thing.
And definitely, Larry would agree that this is going to help the economy tremendously.
Oh, wait.
Yes.
At the end of the day, there's going to be some growing pains.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about educational assistance. This has been a topic of real interest. So if we can go to our next prediction, and Deepa, walk us through your thoughts on, you know, there's a lot of controversy and discussion around, is it okay to use AI chatbots for teaching, for tutoring, for learning, for submitting work? Talk us through that some.
Thanks, Beverly. So the good and bad, right, both together. I definitely think that having these tutor chatbots are very helpful. They're, especially for our adult community. The older students definitely hesitate to go back and ask questions for the fear of sounding wrong, for the fear of being seen ignorant. So for them, going to something like a chatbot and having that conversation is very helpful. But for chatbots still are not necessarily technically accurate. They are not that easy to understand, and certainly empathy is an issue. So for a lot of students who want empathy, where the tutors are saying, tutoring systems are saying, schools are saying, go to a chatbot first, there is a little bit of a resentment. There is a question that I put out to my ethics class. If your online class was conducted by an AI chatbot and you never knew about it, what is your reaction to this? Purely from the ethical standpoint as a student. And I'm really interested to know what our audience has to think about it. If you were taking an online class and the entire thing was done by a chatbot and you didn't know about it, would you want to be told about it? Would you not want to be told about it? Right? It goes back to what Beverly was saying. Would I want to know if the art that was done was AI done or not, right? So, Khan Amigo was one of the very popular chatbots that's there in Khan Academy, and I anticipate this coming a lot. In fact, this is one of the biggest areas that we are researching back we are actually having an online conference where we're going to discuss this in great depth. Is the use of the use of AI, both from the student point of view as well as from the instructor point of view. What's okay, what's not okay?
Mhm.
Is it okay to use ChatGPT? There's tremendous conversation. And, students are doing their projects, having it done by these. I constantly have students coming to me with assignments that have been generated by the AI, right? And I'm okay with it because as long as they can explain it, what's going on, why not use the latest tool? It does make an instructor resentful because they feel that a student has not put in. But what's really interesting is 9 out of 10 times a student is not able to explain it. And that makes even someone like me annoyed because you haven't, okay, use your tool. Like Larry was saying, you wouldn't go to your exam with a calculator anymore. Use your chatbot if you want, but be sure you understand. And the problem is because the technology has not evolved that much, the content produced by the AI system is not that easy to to the student who's beginning knowledge in that. So they are not really able to explain it. It takes them takes 3 times at least longer than the average student if they were to just sit down and do the work.
So is this going back to
Yep.
the inertia, mental inertia? That
Yes.
Yes.
a
For
robotic
sure.
chatbot is created? Yeah, I kind of
What have we
remember.
done?
Yeah, I remember I think the videos, the educational chatbots are really great when you're kind of going back. Oh, did I miss it? Let me go and listen. I didn't get the notes in class, or I didn't write my notes in class. Because, but also it kind of, let me put it this way. My son would love Khan, right? He would learn from that instead of going to class and trying to learn. But then the examples or his mental mindset was kind of limited because he would only be able to do the examples that was given to him from that scenario. So the mind stopped thinking about what is really behind this calculation, right? What is driving the reason for the outcome? And it was really bad. And then he got off it and he says, he says now that, Mom, I really realized that I wasn't thinking and trying to solve the problem, learning the methodology to solve the problem. I was just using the solved problem as a sample, as a prototype to solve other similar problems. And I think going back, that's the inertia I keep kind of coming back to is it hits us in so many different ways.
If any of y'all recognize, I was trying to find a good image, but I couldn't. It's hard to even find an image like this now. But if this looks familiar to any of you, you went to elementary school the same time I did. That was the beginning, where the teacher would roll in a TV and instead of talking through a lesson or teaching, they would show a video. So I wonder if this is the more exaggerated and deeper version of sort of how that trend started. It's going to be interesting to watch for sure.
Well, I think it's going to be an evolution. Things that we've seen, common things that we've seen throughout the year of education is going to be, there are still going to be the same types of issues that we've dealt with in the past. I mean, if we think about, basic search functions, if you want to know what Napoleon's birthday is, then that's a basic search. You don't need AI for that. But then you still want to know that is a valid source. And that's going to be based a lot on trust. Do you trust that source? Is Wikipedia good enough for a date versus the analysis that they give deeper in? That some people would provide that as a question mark. But I think it really does. It depends. But that cognitive things, if we continue, if we teach as many of us were to regurgitate, then that's what we're going to get. I mean, we've had Cliff Notes and everything else out there that you could take a test and just simply regurgitate what was I'll go with the blackboard. But if you really want to start and you have to go deeper, as we did later in our more advanced classes, we had to start putting some thought, some perspective and some, problem solving into what we were saying and really defend it. That's where, and I think we can even accelerate that. The young people that I talk to today, high schoolers and others, are extremely smart people. They've seen all of this, and their ability to layer on their perspectives and what they've learned to the information that they can generate quickly is astounding to me. So I think there's a lot of positive there, but there are a lot of things that we're going to have to address.
And I have to
Yeah,
say,
for sure.
I just say to Deepa's point that I love how it captures the notes in my meeting. So, I'm able to just focus on the meeting and responding. But, there's always a nugget you may miss. So, yes, maybe it's because of the length of the conversation. It has its value and you have to use it as such. But don't look at those notes, because those notes that Google, I find the Google AI assistant are terrible. They're really bad. When they do the summarization, you're like, oh my God, is this what it got from this conversation, which you didn't have the same take on the meeting. So,
Like Cliff Notes.
Yeah.
Like Cliff Notes.
Yeah, like Cliff Notes. Exactly. Exactly. These Cliff Notes work well to a point.
Well, and Larry, you mentioned something about it's the same kinds of problems, but now they're in a different context or further along. And that's something that Priya, you mentioned, the whole GIGO. So can you talk to us about garbage in, garbage out for our next prediction point?
So I've been working with data for about 20, 30 years now, anywhere in between, let's take an average. And it has been amazing how data was the lowest pile on the rack. You did analytics, and every time you try to present in front of a stakeholder or executors, you always made sure people were aware of the garbage in, garbage out. So somebody would always bring it up, but what about your data? And then you would have to take a double take. Did I look at the data properly? I don't think that situation has changed. Now it's become increasingly, 3 powered times more important for us to look at data. We used to work with files, right? 1 million, 2 million, 3 million records or something long time back. And then you come to this world with not just real-time data, it's just millions of transactions being processed in the financial institutions. There's data coming in and pouring out wazoo. You have internet data, your social network data. But if you don't look at what this data means and use the data appropriately, you're still making the same mistakes that we pointed out 20 years ago. With AI,
Unbelievable.
Yeah, with AI, people forget it's not magic. It's not magic. It is looking at the information behind. It is running a model, an algorithm that is looking at data. That's why they call it large language model. But it's also using millions of data that are feeding into it to refine it, to make its deductions, predictions, and estimates happen, linking words, linking languages, linking images. And so it's more than ever important. If you were thinking of using AI in an environment, within an environment of company, if you're looking at it, feeding that information to these models, you have to make sure what you're feeding is right. Otherwise, the connections you make are going to be your hallucinations, not the hallucinations of the algorithm anymore. You are building your own hallucinations. That your data is good. So I feel that this is more important than ever to focus on the data strategy. Get your data right. Or don't bother with AI now, because AI will just frustrate you and you will start poo-pooing it. There are good things from AI. But really, to me, I think the journey requires a focus on data to begin with. So hence, my term, GIGO is not squared, but more cubed, or it could be more than that.
Yes.
What did you say? You'll start to believe your own hallucinations?
Yes.
Yeah, I like that.
You're creating your own hallucinations,
Crazy.
right?
Yeah. What if it all comes down to data all over again? Like, what if that's what we're dealing with? Once again, every time we advance in this field, it comes back to data. So interesting. Well, I'm going to address a little bit of the elephant in the room, and then I'm going to ask Larry to give his take on it as well. So I'll do the I'll do the nice part, and then Larry, you can kind of give us the punch in the gut. But
Thanks.
but you know, you're the CEO, so. But there's a lot of talk about jobs, you know, because all these things that we're discussing right now, like your data and your strategy and your regulation and all that kind of stuff. And so, what is this going to do to the job market? Well, for one, you are going to start seeing more titles for things like Chief AI Officer, like not the responsibility of the CDO or the CIO, you know, as part of their shared thing, but no, it's someone's full-time, dedicated responsibility to own AI. I also hope, and maybe it's not 2024, it could be 2025, but I hope you're going to start seeing AI ethicists as a full-time permanent role for companies. That's my aspirational position title. But things like prompt engineers, you know, you're already seeing things like that. And I'm not really even sure what the new titles are going to be, but I'm sure that we'll see a handful of very interesting new job titles this year. Now, related to that, Larry, I'm going to let you talk about what other impacts you'll see on the job market.
Well, you know, in economics, we often talk about, you know, creative destruction. And it's what happens whenever rapid innovation comes and really disrupts. It's but with the new opportunities like the potential titles that you've put here, there's going to be an impact on especially things like lower level analysts. Those things will be replaced by systems that can accelerate and get to that next level of need and complexity, as we've talked about before. You know, so the other category, I think about trainers. People aren't really going to need trainers the way that we have before. And I think as we think about it, a lot of this, and Deepa's touched on it, it's about how do we help people think further, solve problems, create new opportunities. Priya's mentioned it as well. So that's where it's going to go. But there will be some creative destruction that happens along the way, the growing pains that we're going to express as we refine AI and continue to adopt different models.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Can we advance
Isn't that what they
a
say?
couple? Yeah, go ahead, Deepa.
AI is not going to completely take away the jobs. It's just that people who know AI are going to replace people who don't know AI. Right? You agree? Does that sound?
Yeah.
Deepa, I've started saying that it's no longer about, you know, it's more about how are we going to function and how are we going to work in an AI world. And because those are the tools that are available to us, they're going to be everywhere. As you mentioned before, the icons there, it's going to be there. And how do we make sure that we're relevant in this world of AI that we're all going to be learning and functioning in, living and functioning in?
Yeah, I think it's a matter of remodeling or restating your roles, because yes, some roles may go away, but there are going to be new roles that will kind of evolve based on how you take advantage of what is being presented to you through AI. So I do think some roles will roll.
Yeah,
especially when there's automation involved.
Yeah, I mean, just think about the writers. I was actually a little surprised that they went on strike recently, but just think if AI were, it's not even close right now, but if AI were much, much better than it is right now, and it's pulling from, you know, just histories and histories and histories of filmmaking, couldn't it write a pretty good script? I mean, isn't that kind of like having a bunch of writers that actually agree with each other? I mean, where you know, converge on something. So I think some jobs will, I'm not afraid to say, but I think some jobs will absolutely go away, you know, completely. And it's, those people will end up going somewhere else or doing something else, but the potential for the jobs to actually go away is, you know, I think it's pretty real.
Well,
we have
one last thing on it is even if they don't go away, the value associated with the job might change. And so you will have your admins that you have, but the value to them, how much they're getting paid, might go down. which is again a different way of saying the job might go away, because now you're saying all you're doing is making sure you're catching me in the corridor and reminding me which meeting I gotta go to. On the other hand, Copilot has already organized my mail, is telling me what to do, how to summarize everything else. It can even schedule for me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I think
it's very interesting that you've said this. I've heard a lot about the technology, about the concerns, and some about, what might be inhibiting us from, rolling this out. And I think that's one of the biggest things is adoption, right? Is how do we really focus on getting people to not be scared of it, but use Copilot. And that's those are the conversations I'm having with current clients over at HHS and some other areas, is saying, okay, Microsoft rolling this out. Let's set up a center of excellence. Let's set up brown bags every day. Let's figure out a way that people can automate and realize don't be scared of being replaced. Learn how to use it. And so we've been working more on the change management aspect, the adoption, the enablement, how to make their lives easier, right? So, I've been on a couple panels, and a lot of them really focus on the technology, and I'm really more focused on the people and how they're going to leverage it to make their jobs easier.
We have two more. Larry's got some kind of special final prediction for us.
You
And I
gave it
have
away.
one more, which is right now, I feel like we're really focusing on just doing whatever we can. I literally have senior leaders that will use the phrase, we just need to do some AI. And they'll say, like, I don't even care where, how big, whatever, just please help me do something. My board is breathing down my neck. I got to do something. I got to use AI for something. So in the past, we've kind of poked around and taken more of a research approach, and maybe not as serious, sort of dipping our toe in. I think this year, hopefully this is the year where companies start moving to more production. They're leveraging AI in a way that actually provides value. And I'm hearing a lot of conversations around value. Where's the value? That it's not just an expense to try it out and see if it's going to work, but you're starting to see more production, hopefully this year, but not quite enterprise-wide yet. And I think, Priya, you had some comments on that too. But maybe like just sort of isolate, like this is the such and such project and it leverages AI. So hopefully we'll start to see where there's real value and not just research and poking around, kind of seeing what happens, but real value, and AI is able to produce products and projects and initiatives that can benefit an organization. Any thoughts on that before we go to Larry's final?
I think it'll come slow. I agree with you. I think, at least from the company's point of view, many of the enterprises are already in the throes of digital transformation for the last 4 years. So for them to say, okay, you got to change everything you did, now you have to add this layer, is going to be very difficult. But I think the digital transformation is going to kind of establish, I'm hoping, the security issues which need to go with it before data gets housed and used. So I think the focus, because of all the hacks and cybersecurity events that have happened in the past, so I think they'll keep going there before they start thinking about investing or restructuring or reorganizing to adapt AI. I think I go back to what Deepa said, it's a time to reflect, to sit back and think and think about how is it going to impact coming together in communities, having the discussion, and then thinking about what is the best way to do it. They might try 1 or 2 use cases. I'm sure everybody's going to dabble this year, but it's not going to be AI on a large scale. I
agree. I hope companies will set a goal to do one thing.
Yeah. Otherwise they'll destroy what the progress they're making.
But it's about
Right.
low-level engagements. There's some of these, Copilot's here, and if I think about some of these things like, some of these, what I've said, more entry-level analyst positions, if you're in a training program today for that, we should already work with those people to pivot, because it's here. That's not, I put it down as a prediction. It's not a prediction. It's happening. It's right here with us.
Yeah.
And as opposed to a large enterprise, if we're thinking about UPS, rethinking its whole, supply chain management system using AI, that is certainly something that you have to be more cautious about and you have to be more thoughtful about.
No kidding, and it impacts everybody. We only have 2 minutes left, so Larry, you get one of them. Go for it.
All right. Well, you said it here. My prediction is that humans will prevail, and that as we experience of all this, we experience it, we experiment with it, we play with it, we get comfortable with where we like and where we don't. Our human nature is going to go out and seek out authentic experiences. So we're going to want to go to that live music concert where we know and can see that there's somebody there really playing an instrument. We're going to look and, watch people create beautiful pieces of art because we want that authentic experience. So I'm very confident, and I think that we'll have a lot of great new opportunities as people want to have more venues where they can experience authentic experiences.
Love it. Love it. Thank you, Larry. That's a good ending too. Excellent. Well, I hope you guys have enjoyed our predictions. Just to wrap us up real quickly, coming soon. If you enjoyed this, hopefully you'll enjoy some of our other things. Master Modeler Competition 2024 is now live, and it's not just for students, it's for practitioners as well. Go ahead and advance. The link is in the chat. It's one of the first links I put in there. For those of you interested in potentially competing, it's a great experience. You get to give back to the community by helping Davis Direction Foundation, which reduces addiction, including opioids, and fuels recovery. You get to work with new platforms and tools, and you earn a speaking spot at Informs Analytics Conference in 2024, which is April 22nd. You can earn some prize money, and it's an incredible resume builder. The link is in the chat. Next, please. We also have our Tag Data Talk, which you can listen to every single month around the 15th. A new episode comes out. And we just brought on a couple of sponsors. They're co-sponsoring. I believe it's going to be Wavical and Google are going to co-sponsor Tag Data Talk for 2024. So please take a listen when you can. And thank you for joining us. I'm Beverly Wright, so feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. Had a great time, and a huge round of applause for our panelists. Thank you guys for your wisdom, your experience, and your thoughts and how much you give to the data science and AI community.